Bring in more revenue while saving money and differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack vying to win those guests by becoming more environmentally friendly. We will show you how easy it is and how cheap it can be, if not free, and share all the opportunities available. So join us each week as we take another step along the green path. That's one more step to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. The Green Path podcast is kindly sponsored by Sestonica, the first sustainability recognition for vacation rental homes. What if vacation rental professionals could influence millions of travellers to make their own homes more sustainable? Show the world that you have taken steps to make your vacation rental consume less and get your badge on sestonica.com. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Green Path podcast. Some of you may be familiar with the bell jar curve and its meaning. In the startup world, for example, this represents the early adopters, who are few in numbers, and then the majority catch up, and then there are a few who are late to the game. In the world of sustainability, however, I think that instead of the bell jar curve, it's more of a flat, possibly slightly wavy line with the occasional very high peaks. We know some of those peaks in the industry: Bob Garner from EnviroRental, Vanessa de Souza-Lage from Sestonica, Mark Rabai from Kalia, and today we meet another peak. In fact, she's known as the Green Queen at work. Today, I'm chatting with Rachel Parsons from New Forest Escapes. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, and it's extremely nice to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and thank you very much for your time. I do know you're a very busy woman. So, Rachel, I know you've got a huge story, but let's start from the beginning, the very best place to start. How did your journey get started?
I was thinking about this in the car on the way here, and I was thinking, what is the most profound experience that I've had that got me going? And apart from making tea on the family farm for people as a host, with my mum when I was a kid at 4 years old, I think in my 20s, I traveled quite considerably, and I lived in Australia for 5 years on a farm, and we had drought, we had wildfires, we had starving animals, we had floods, it was biblical at times. And it's a very marginal place to live. So you're always on the edge. Here in the UK, here in a lot of the Western world, we're very buffered from these climatic extremes. In Australia, when you're farming and your profit margin's somewhere between 1.5 and 2%, when you have rain at a time of year that you're not expecting, you can make your profit for the year. Or if you don't get it, you're absolutely up the proverbial creek. And then when you've got your animals out and you've done everything you can to survive and it's all going really, really well, and you're kind of gritting your teeth and keeping on going, and then there is some kind of fire that comes through, it's a very humbling, profound, guttural experience of survival that I think a lot of people who live in these communities where we have financially buffered, where we import most of our food, where our electricity is not associated to what the sun is doing, that we might just be able to put our electricity bill on our credit card and just wait. Whereas if you run out of water in your dam at your house, you've got no water, you're suddenly stuck. You don't have a shower. I remember not having a shower. I remember being physically very compromised at times. And at the same time, I was running helping my partner run a tourism company. We used to take people up on horses into the mountains. And so we were actually going out of our comfort zone, further out into the comfort zone, into the mountains, and, going on that journey with people and seeing their physical experience of this very deep and challenging, but primevally beautiful landscape, and seeing how the connection to that landscape gave them this raw energy to want to keep going, apart from the fact that they were on a horse for 5 days, and if they didn't, they would be stuck up there. That's kind of irrelevant. So that was a real privilege to have that very hand-to-mouth life. Very shortly after that, I worked in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa as a travel writer, and I spent a year seeing 3 places a day and staying at one overnight or something like that. And in every single place I just went to, I thought, oh my God, that little idea is amazing. Wow, that's really, really cool. And I developed this kind of library of amazing ideas. When I came back to the UK, I then got a job working in sustainability. And I ended up working randomly for Prince Charles, working on a rainforest education project for schools, with a brilliant partner, and as part of a much bigger media campaign, which was pre-COP 2010, so back in about 2007. And my eyes were opened in terms of sustainability. My levels of connections, because I was able to say, hi, I'm Rachel, I'm calling from Prince Charles's office. Please, can I have a 400 fake gems, please, because we want to do whatever it is, and we're providing this artistic thing. Are the gems as much environmentally friendly as you can? Be great. We want to put them on the fourth plinth of Trafalgar, in Trafalgar. It was really random. Everybody said yes, and I learned so much about what to do and what not to do in those campaigns. And I worked on a load of social justice projects as well for the History Channel with a whole load of celebrities. And the culmination of that was I got pregnant, and I thought, okay, I don't want to do any of this. Don't want to live in London. Moved back to Hampshire. And I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use that library of information that I had in my head for all these amazing ideas, and I'm going to start a property. So I started my current company, New Forest Escapes, with one house. We now have 55. We're B Corp certified, and we employ 9 people. Amazing. Yes, amazing. And that's for many reasons. It's been a good business, but it's tough. I'm not going to go into the kind of the business side of it. I'm going to go into the sustainability side of it, because that's what we're here for. So the very interesting thing is that when you start a business, you kind of get that initial feedback of, is this actually going to work? And I started that first house as out and out, completely committed eco house. And this was 13 years ago now. So 13 years ago. No one else was doing that. I mean, sorry, the light's very bad. That no one else was doing that. And so we were charging for utilities. We were having loads of very visual prompts and nudges for people to behave in a sustainable way. We planted the garden so the kids could pick it. Highly interactive with the guests to help them understand what was going on in the property. Not necessarily because we met them, but because I took time to explain it to them, that we left material in the house that was joyfully explaining what was going on. Hi, are your kids bored? Little message on the kitchen table. Hi, if your kids are bored, tell them that we've left magic patatis growing in the garden. Change the name. And they're like, oh, what's that? What's a patati? They've spelt it wrong. No. Let's go and find out. And they go out there and they'd be potatoes. And the joy, the love, the kind of the engagement that you would get from that, and from many other things, was very interesting, because it immediately allowed me as the host and them as a guest to align our values, which meant they cared about my wishes, and I cared, because I'd proven that I cared about theirs in a very hands-on way. And
can I stop you for 1 second? Did the guests coming to you at that time, were they specifically looking to stay at a sustainable property, or they just wanted to go to the country and they weren't really aware of it?
Absolutely not at all. They have no interest in eco. Well, some of them perhaps had a little bit of eco awareness, but it wasn't the eco that I was selling this property on. I was selling it on joy. And so we structured the whole stay to be very family friendly. So I knew my niche. I provided masses of toys. All the photos of the toys were in the pictures of the property listing, including pictures of the garden, pictures of the full, I think there was like 40-piece fancy dress outfit for children. Like, it was crazy. We had everything from stormtroopers to Postman Pat and every kind of you can imagine.
Fantastic. I want to go now.
I know. I still wish I had it. I wish I fitted into it. So what it meant, and we had prams, and we had car seats for people who were traveling from overseas. We had like extra little beds tucked away in funny places. We allowed people to move the beds around the house. That was a really big thing for kids. They all wanted to sleep in one room one night, and then they wanted to go to Granny's room the other night. Most places will be horrified if you did that. Even in my current stock of owners, they don't like it. All of these little things meant that we were in a niche, and that was the piece that sold. It was very theatrically produced as well. The house was very fantastical. Lots of ceiling to wall, like landscape wallpaper, It's like a huge beech forest, for example, and then the rest of the room would be themed slightly around those colors. It's not the kind of place that you'd want to live at home. But if you went to one of the Ferndale hotels, Kit Kemp's hotels, they were much more styled like that. They were kind of more than, it was real fantastical kind of living. And then this very family friendly centric part of it. But underneath everything was, they were accountable for the electricity that they used. I could prove what they'd used and was very happy to talk to them about it. We had obvious at that time, it's now much better, house production around sustainability. So water butts, radiator panels that reflect the heat back into the room, information on the radiator. Oh, little radiator fans I had that you plug in that were amazing. They were really good. A fan on top of the wood burner, properly encouraging people to use the wood burner. What else did we have? An eco kettle with a little jug next to it saying, I'm 1 cup. You know, that just little things, nothing expensive. And it was really interesting that the majority of people used pretty sensible amount of electricity. And then occasionally 1 or 2 people used an insane amount of electricity, way beyond you'd expect. And I would look at their breakages deposit and go, oh my God, they've used half. Like some people would use £10 over a weekend, and then the next weekend, same weather, £120.
Oh,
what are you doing? And I phoned these people up and I go, look, this is an eco house and I feel a little bit uncomfortable about this, because I want you to have had a lovely stay, and I think you have, blah, 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 blah. Yes, it was very nice, blah, blah. But I have noticed that you did use rather a lot of electricity. And their response always was shock, surprise, and gratefulness that you had educated them in such a way that they would save that money for the rest of their lives. And that's how I tried to approach it every time. And it's that values alignment piece that I think we're missing so often in our modern tourism, where you get, and I call it very loosely, the death valley of self-check-in. And these tech platforms enable a total lack of communication. So unless you as a host take over with micro messaging, like WhatsApp videos, how to use the wood burner, here's a WhatsApp video, this is why we've done this in the house, or I know, here's a WhatsApp video, you can't see what's going on in sustainability in this house because it's all in the insulation and blah, 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 blah. And therefore this is what's going on, this is how we'd love you to behave because this is really important to us, and I know that you like nature conservation, and pick some values that everybody loves, insert them here, and then ask them to behave in a certain way. But we just don't have that in our normal check-in processes, nothing. And so then we're surprised that people just use all the electricity because we don't charge them for it. And these are the things in the industry that I think we really need to start addressing, because they are as a result of us wanting to move away from this old style of very kind of mom and pop tourism. But actually we need to go back there a bit. We need to go back there in a new way, so that we're communicating to people in a friendly, supportive style using our modern technology. Or ideally, and the best one of all is, oh, hi, Deborah, it's so lovely to see you. I'm so glad you had a nice, easy journey. Walk up to you, physically put your hand on their arm and go, it's really nice to see you. Glad you got here. Come on, kids, I'll show you what's in the garden. And then you got them.
yeah.
Which is why it's easier for a hotel. So yeah,
Cool.
so that's the journey. That's the start of the journey. What else do you want to know?
Now, I was going to say that's called connection, and that's going to keep bringing guests back too. That's my belief, that face-to-face check-in is a connection. They put a face to the brand, and you will always connect with a face rather than a logo. And I was going to say also, I love the fact that you had sustainability hiding underneath the niche of joy. So there are so many niches, whether it's a niche of luxury, whether it's a niche of, Disneyland or whatever, to have that level of sustainability just below the surface there, and to be able to explain to the guests. And the thing about electricity is, I think I've mentioned it once before, no one understands their electricity usage. You get the bill, it's like, oh, God damn, that was high this month or this quarter. Or other times it's like, okay, yeah, it's expensive, but that's what it is. To make people aware of their usage. I know I've been visiting guests sometimes during a stay, and every light in the house is on. Like, why? And I had to pay the bill. It's like, Why? I want to run around and turn the lights off. There's no need for this. And so maybe I won't say everyone should charge electricity to their guests, but it's a very interesting exercise to bring to their attention. This is how much electricity you used this weekend or this week. Yeah.
So Uber have a model called Fair Share, which, because I don't catch Uber, I only know about in theory. And everyone listening to this will go, "Oh, she's got it wrong. It's this." But the principle, as I understand, is that Fair Share is about you pay for what you use, and so there might be multiple people in the cab. Okay, and so therefore you're paying a smaller amount of money for pretty much the same journey. Might be a slight detour, but it's a fair share concept. I think we should be charging every single guest the energy that they use, because that's the only way people are going to be accountable. My business partner isn't in the room, so I can say this. She won't necessarily agree, by the way. This is not a business line. This is a personal line. And the reason I say that is because people need to be held responsible for what they use. And it is not fair for the business to be paying out when there is no accountability and no responsibility from their part. There's nothing they can do. What they can do, however, is quite significant. They can have the house set up so it is fit for purpose. And if the house is not fit for purpose at the moment, it's questionable whether you should really be doing it, because like fire regs, which are actually a compliance, sustainability is not. But if you are renting out a house with single glazing windows, ouch, no insulation, seriously, poor heating, these are things that need to be sorted out. And yes, some of them are expensive. And so maybe take a time to actually really assess what you're doing with your property, because you asked me about what might be happening in the future. I think in a very short period of time, the compliance for medium-sized businesses, so let's say a property with 10 bedrooms or more, and I don't know what that number of bedrooms is, they are going to be forced to comply with much, much, much tighter carbon management. Carbon is king. It's the thing that's causing the climate change. Everything else, frankly, is environmental. Yeah, it's a different situation. Hang on. So when we treat carbon as king in our properties and with our guests, we are enabling everybody to have a more resilient and safer future. That's without a doubt. We're also enabling a better business profit, because at the moment, those electricity bills, those utility bills are really bad, and that is not going to change. So building resilience into your business around transparency of energy use, I think, is very, very important. And I believe, and your listeners will have much more information about this than I do, even though I've tried to find it online. I believe that there are some countries where energy is charged as standard. I think that's Ireland. I think it's some of the Scandinavian countries, and I think it's part of Spain. I also think in Thailand it's sort of fairly normal, because the aircon cost is so high.
So it's just a flat rate. A flat charge.
No, I think in some places it's not. I do know in the UK that it's illegal to retail electricity through a stay, so that you would actually have to meter it quite accurately. There is a project that we're involved in with Christopher Warren, who I think you've interviewed.
Yes.
He's amazing. He's a real leading light. He's an amazing guy to follow. Called My Green Butler, and My Green Butler does exactly that. It's, however, too time consuming to install and too expensive to install everywhere instantly and quickly. And that means that there are lots of issues in terms of gathering specific data for, when the cleaners went into the house versus when they left, could be £2 worth of electricity right now, because they're using all of the tools, including possibly the washing machine. So it could be a £5. Well, you can't charge your guests for that. The rental accommodation fee, the electricity fee is a different thing, the actual usage fee. So that transparency of information around the check-in time, the energy costs, and the checkout time is something that needs to be very much worked on. I wish someone would phone me up. I've got an idea for an app. We've actually done some work on it with Southampton University, but they want 30. It's going to cost about 30 grand to build it. But it actually would transform the industry. Be really amazing. Please, everybody phone me. I'm very happy to work in collaboration.
I can already feel the pushback about charging guests for their electricity. Everyone's already freaking out, I'm sure, listening to this. But
of course they are.
But I do recall, maybe showing my age, but maybe, like 15, 20 years ago, no, I'm not showing my age. In Italy, I do remember, I think the owner would take a meter reading and you'd have to pay for your electricity. I'm sure that's what it used to be like. Obviously, maybe not anymore, but once upon a time. I just don't think that at this stage that managers are going to think about doing that.
Wicked problem, right? So a wicked problem is one that works for enough people that they don't want to change it. So right now, this problem is working for the commissioning sales agents for the house, because they take a commission that includes the cost of the electricity. Right, so they're actually making money on the fact that the owner is losing money, which is morally not particularly ideal. And then you've got the guests who check in and they like, well, I don't care, I'll do whatever I like, and I've already paid for this. Fantastic. And that's an assumed delivery. So those are the two areas that it absolutely works. It doesn't work for the environment, and it doesn't work for the owner. So they're equal forces of energy, which is why we're getting no change. Interesting is that you have people like, and I'm going to say Alistair Handyside from Pask, who is really pretty hot on his sustainability on his property in Devon. I think it's him. And if it's not, Alistair, you should. I think they charge for electricity there when people check in. And they have a buffer charge. And I'm now regretting saying it was Alistair. Anyway, if it's not Alistair, I've seen other places do this, and having a buffer charge would help, because then it would still assume some energy is paid by the owner and then some is paid by the guest, and that would significantly help. So it gives people motivation, but it also gives them the sense of goodwill that there is an understanding. And I can't see that as a reason for the OTAs and the commissioning bodies who are selling houses to really think, okay, we're gonna lose commission on £5 per stay across all of our properties. Is it really enough? Is it really enough of a reason to not do it? I don't think it is. And I don't think it's really enough of a reason for the guests to not book if enough people change over it to a short period of time. And I think the main pushing factor is the owners are going to go, well, do you know what, to be honest, we can't be asked with this anymore. The fire regs are so hard. The electricity is so damn high. We're going to stop renting unless this changes. So the market will dictate the change, but it is unfortunately slow and frustrating. But anyway, that was a long rabbit hole.
With the booking.com survey and the fact that there is what 82, 89% of guests that are looking to stay in sustainable properties, the fact that you actually point out, you pay for the electricity. So if they want to be good, then they don't have to pay very much. You're like the rate might be a bit discounted, but you're going to pay the electricity, and it might appeal to those guests that are looking to stay at that sustainable property. They know they're contributing and they're just paying for what they use, as opposed to you're factoring in the electricity of everyone for that poor owner.
I think that's a fair thing to say. I think the ethical traveler market is pretty small, and I've done a lot of study. I'm also a trained life coach, and I'm a trained climate coach. So I talk to people with eco-anxiety, and I talk to a lot of business leaders and help them through these leadership paradoxes that they have, where they are, I want to do this, but I want to do this. Is it cake or is it lentils? How do we make this healthy cake movement towards sustainability normalized and joyful in tourism? And it's very difficult in tourism because we are traditionally selling the cake all the time, hedonism. And actually lentils is traditionally seen as sustainability. Don't do this, don't do that. You've got to wear a hair shirt and don't even think you're having a nice steak for supper, because actually you need to eat, dried grass. Lovely. That's going to sell well, isn't it? And so we're really caught in this trap. What we need to do is we all need to be the Nigella Lawson of sustainability, and we need to make sustainability normal, sexy. Actually, Nigella is probably not a very good example because she cooks with too much butter. She's too cagey.
Oh. Well, hey, we're talking about joy.
Exactly. But this is the point, right? Hedonism is joyful, and the trick is to re-normalize joy, but make it and absolutely sell the joy, but sell it in such a way that it is already designed to be good. So here's look, I'm in the cafe because my office is busy. I've got this lovely, beautiful cup. It's not focusing. And in it is an oat milk latte. It's not something that I would normally order. It's absolutely delicious. That's the only option on the menu, oat milk. It's completely glorious. And that's what I'm having. And is it adding to my experience? 100% yes. Yeah. So the healthy cake option is absolutely got to be the only one that's on the cards. There's a brilliant behavior economist that I came across through the Travel by B Corp group. It's a collective of B Corps and travel, surprisingly with the name, and it includes Intrepid and Exodus, and who else have we got in there? Joro and Byway, the guys who do a lot of train holidays. Amazing companies, brilliant leaders. Soar Days are another one. And all of these, the group got a lady called Dr. Milena Niklova. I think she comes from Budapest. She's a really whip smart lady, and she talks about behavior economics. And she used the example of the car industry to discuss and show us how we can normalize sustainability in travel without making a fuss about it, right?
Mhm.
So, do you remember when you last bought a car, if they asked you if you wanted ABS braking? No, right? Nobody was asked. Did you, Deborah, would you like electric windows, or would you like old style windows that you have to wind down?
Yeah, of course, electric. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Deborah, this car, it comes with 4 types of sunroof. Which one would you like? No, it doesn't really do that. They're just like, this is the sunroof and this is the glass that you're having in it because it's the safe stuff and that's just the way it's going to be. And the ABS braking is the best braking that you can have because it's the most actually sustainable properly, because humans make mistakes, but these brakes don't. Right? So it's just designed in as standard. There's no option. And so therefore you go away with a car and you're like, God, this car is like great because it's going to sustain my life, literally. And I didn't have to think about any of the science or the tech behind it because they just did it for me. That's what I'm looking for. When we are guests and we have that experience with a place that we're staying at, we are receiving someone's design thinking. We are on the receiving end of that design thinking. And currently the design thinking that we receive is from the 80s, where nobody thought about the environment. Everybody thought corporate was better. And actually it's god awful most of the time. And it's impersonal and, impersonal and impersonal. And that as a short-term rental sector is not where we want to be. And even in a hotel sector, that's not where we want to be either. Hotels are absolutely leaning into the personalized experiences all the time now. And it's just so much nicer. Personalized rooms, different rooms. That never used to happen. So this idea of designing in what's good and designing out what's bad is the most powerful way of delivering sustainability for your guest, so they can only make good choices. I said earlier that I have I do a lot of climate change coaching. So 75% of the UK population in November 22 census, this is the whole UK, you've got to answer this lovely questionnaire that comes through or you get fined, and 85% of young people 83% of young people have some form of significant to very significant climate anxiety. That is 3/4 of our population. So what was that statistic you gave me from booking.com? Can't remember the statistic.
82, 89%.
Right. Major correlation, huge correlation. What we also know, though, is that people are very concerned about greenwash. They are struggling to find what they want in terms of tourism. And they also behave in a hedonistic way when they go away, because guess what? I've been really good for 51 weeks of the year, and God damn it, now I'm going to have that extra glass of wine, that chocolate, and that deep bath, right? That's fair enough. We're in that industry. Yeah. So it is our responsibility to redesign our businesses so that people can do some of those things, not necessarily all of them, not necessarily steal the energy from your electricity tariff and trickle charge their car, right? That's not okay. There are boundaries, but there are options that we have to design it in so that they can do it. And I think you had, and I asked you this a couple of weeks ago, that brilliant guy from the States whose business is not here yet, God damn it. Okay to charge?
Correct. Yep.
Mr. Okay to charge.
Yeah.
That's the innovative thinking that we need here as standard in the UK. Yeah. So that as an agency, I've got my agency hat on now, not my guest or my owner hat on. Yeah. As an agency, we can say, you're bringing an electric car, amazing. Do you want to preload your credit card so that you've got 4 charges set up? It's going to be an extra 100 quid. That's fine. We'll do it for you now. So when you arrive, you can just get it all sorted. There we go. No problem.
Beautiful.
Everybody's happy in that situation. That's where that innovative thinking.
Yeah. That's one thing. Sorry, that's one option. But let's go back to the electric windows and the ABS brakes. What are those equivalents that property managers can do to their properties or for the guest stay?
Yeah, amazing question. All right. So the way I approach this, actually through the B Corp certification training that I do for people, is when they come to me and they go, we want to do B Corp, but we don't know what to do. And it seems like a good idea. And oh God, how do we break up sustainability? This is a nightmare. I don't know what to do. Okay. So you literally break up sustainability into the component parts of the concept. So it's electricity, it's water, it's waste, it's, cleaning products, it's plastics, it's biodiversity. Okay. And then you take action on each one of those. So for example, you don't sell sustainability as a front end value to sell, which is what I didn't do at my holiday cottage when I first set up. I sold joy first. I sold a quality of experience first, and a quality of look and feel, and a quality of convenience, right? Your core product has to be good. If it's not, just don't even bother with sustainability, because it's not going to work. People will not buy sustainability first. They will buy it second as a value. Xavier Font, I'm going to just go a little tangent here. Xavier Font at Surrey University said to me, don't ask people to marry you on the first date. They'll take a risk on a £3 latte. There it is. But they will not take a risk on a £2,000 holiday, which is possibly going to ruin their marriage, right? So do not sell sustainability up front. In terms of the design piece, values align around what is important to people. So, and unfortunately, carbon is not really on that list because it's not a very personal thing. But it needs to be done, and we'll address that second. So values align on conservation of nature, pristine environments, pristine air, pristine places, pristine waterways. That means no plastics. Get rid of plastics in your place. It's not going to make a lot of difference to climate change, but it is going to make a difference in terms of values aligning for the guest. You're going to hook them in. It's the same with biodiversity. Have decent gardens that are properly cared for. And I don't mean it needs to look like a 1950s perfect lawn. I mean actually that it needs to be the opposite. It needs to be a place where there is rewilding, where there is clear and obvious care for species, and involve that in your marketing and your storytelling all the way through. Make sure that you've got a decent charity partnership and that is actually being lived through the experience. Do talks in your garden, set your garden up properly, and get the people with the echolocators and the bat radars. They really exist, a bat radar, to come round. If you're in another country where you've got some glorious forest or something nearby, partner with an organization where you're actually making that real into your property. Even cities can really do this, and you see this in Singapore, where they have a 10% rule for green spaces within a new building. Mm-hmm. I've been there recently. It's an absolutely amazing place to go. So split the value of sustainability down into its component parts and really deliver on that. Get curious, use your creativity, and really lean into that. Yeah. Dechemicaling, whatever that word is, detoxifying your property is a really good start. And so one of the things we did at New Forest Escapes was, it was a very simple catalyst. The lovely cleaning team I have, I was there cleaning with them one day, and this girl was like, my hands are really hurting. And she was like, she was in the shower, cleaning the shower. I was like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And she said, oh God, it's this bloody cleaning materials. They're really making me cough. And I said, well, that's not very good. What do you like at the end of the day? She said, every day I have a splitting headache. It's unbearable. I nearly can't even do this job anymore. And I was like, oh my God, we are enabling that to happen. This is not okay. Nothing about this is okay. So I was like, right, we've got to change this. This is not okay. Come on, girls, what we're going to do. And so we got all of our cleaners together, had a lot of discussions, had a lot of talks with a lot of the girls who are working for me, found out some of the worst products. And I was like, right, I'm going to commit a week of my time. We're going to sort this out. Actually, in hindsight, now it would take out, 2 years later, probably take, well, now I would just go to my own website, tell people to read that, because I did all the work for you. It's all there. And I'm sure Deborah will share the links to them later. But we have a cleaning program now where we profiled all of the best cleaning products. We also tried them. We got some discounts from brilliant what companies that are producing green clean materials. Some of them are B Corps. And we really promoted it to our owners. We're like, use this. We can market this for you with my agency hat on. We can market this for you as a point of a USP, as a delivery point of difference. And your guests will experience it when they've got their hand washes and their whatever. There are lots of simple ways like that you can design in, as we were saying before, this example of the ABS braking and the electric windows. So really deliver on these items. Don't just think about it and go, I'm going to change 1 or 2 things. If you are a guest and you are going to a house and it's been sold to you as a sustainable stay, or even if it hasn't, and you're then asked to review it, and everyone is asked to review a property, think of that eco-anxiety driver that people have, because it is a motivational driver. That's how we need to think about it. And that will unleash some of the innovation, I hope, for people, in that they need to literally think, I feel guilty about my stay. I know I'm going to feel guilty about my stay because I'm going to change my behavior when I'm on holiday. How can I reduce as much of that as possible by booking a place which looks like it's going to do the right thing? What are the proof points that I'm seeing when I'm looking at that website and going, oh, actually, these guys have paid attention to this. I'm going to feel less guilty there than anywhere else. So in the marketing side of things, I try and suggest to brands that they have 2 extra brand values. Well, actually only 1, but they're linked. One is delight. Always make sure you have delight as a brand value. And then add next to it, de-guilt. Yeah, so you're trying to set your property up in a way that you feel less guilt for the person who's staying there, right? And even if they're a climate denier, doesn't matter. That experience will just be better for them, because everything that they touch and that they handle and they do, the eco firelighters, the eco bog roll, that is got a funny message on it. If you use Who Gives a Crap, it's got really funny messages on it. It's lovely. The fun signage that you might have around the house, the fact that they don't have to go out for X, Y, and Z. They can use bicycles on site. There are loads of walks profiled for them. There are loads of toys there for the kids already, because someone's thought about it, so they don't have to go and pay loads of money to take them out to activities and whatever every day. Really pay attention to those things. Xavier Font at Surrey University gave me a lovely example when we did our training, which I think you were on in February of this year, which was hang a bird feeder right outside the kitchen window, or the place where they are boiling a kettle all the time. And then people can have their cup of tea and actually interact with the birds, who will soon switch off and they'll get desensitized to the people in the house. So they can actually see the birds there all the time. Every time they boil the kettle, they can go, wow, look at those birds. Have a little bird chart next door.
Oh, what a lovely idea.
And tick off the birds on this little bird chart as they're there. Laminate it so you can use it again and again. And as the people, when the people leave, they're going to know a hell of a lot more about the birds, and they're going to have had, even by not leaving the house, a really profound experience with nature. Because when you're up close and personal with birds, let's say 3 feet away, oh my God, their feet are tiny. Have you seen how long their claws are? Did you know birds had claws? I'm 65 and I didn't know birds had claws. I've heard people say this stuff.
Incredible.
It's a different way of thinking about it. It costs nothing.
Yeah. I love the fact that you've got these niches, the delight, the de-guilt, they're above the sustainability aspect. And the thing about a sustainable property is that it doesn't look any different to a regular property. This is not like a bathroom and a disabled bathroom. You can spot the difference. A sustainable property looks exactly the same. It's got the same creature comforts. And if anything, like you said, there's some friendlier messaging, there's some friendly signs. And the thing about having a sustainable property is those guests, especially when they read it, if they're not familiar with sustainability, but they read what you've done, they've read why you've done it, or they can appreciate why you've done it. That shows to the guest that you care. That is a beautiful thing for a guest to feel from about their host, manager, owner, whatever, whoever's rented the property to them. Wow, they actually care. They care about me and they care about the environment. Beautiful. Nice review coming up.
Yeah, absolutely nice review coming up. Yeah, and it was really interesting. At the last at the Scale Rental Conference in London very recently, there was a question asked on the panel that I was speaking on, which was, do you see an uplift in bookings from selling sustainability? And the answer is probably not in my agency, because we haven't got ourselves organized enough yet to be really integral across an eco collection. We've done it behind the scenes, but we still haven't quite got there in terms of marketing it. What was very interesting is, having talked to the Travel by B Corp group, is that Zina Benchik from Intrepid is an amazing woman. She is so on this, and they are a really leading company. If you want to know what good sustainability is in a very difficult situation, given that they are assuming people are taking flights. She had a very good answer. She said, we've been looking at this for a couple of years, and what we found is that we don't sell it the first time round, but we deliver it inherently within our business. And when we ask people what their feelings are about us as a company, once they have been with us once, it's 99% positive that they will come back again. And that's where the sustainability values come forwards. So as a sales tool to create return guests, it's extremely successful if it's done integrally and well and with care.
Okay, so wait, are you saying that you make your property sustainable, you don't necessarily advertise the fact, but you tell the guest after that you've just stayed and contributed?
No, I don't mean that. I mean, create it in as sustainably as you possibly can across those touch points, pristine air, sort your carbon out, be transparent with your carbon action plans and those things. And I'm not going to go into that because there's plenty of places that you can get that information now. Bob Garner's wonderful Environmental. There's a gazillion places that you can get that information now. You'll be living in a emu land with your head under the ground to not really be engaging with that. It's break it down into sustainable parts, sell those component parts secondarily to the fact that your place is already really, really good, because there are not enough ethical travelers to generate a functional business yet to make the profits that you need to make to run it as a functional business. So sell it in integral, but don't sell it up front. Unless, of course, you're running, the Eco Mirror Hotel in Sweden, where you really are targeting that ethical traveler, and you really can physically demonstrate in a very visual way that it is totally different. People will pay like they will early adopters are about 20% of the market, give or take. And so if you can really lean into that niche, yes, you can sell to them. Absolutely. But if you're Joe Blogg's average, like most of us have houses, you can't do that. So you need to sell it on equality and all of the experiences of quality first, and then secondarily your sustainability underpins all of those joy points, all of those delight and de-guilt. What I think we can do in terms of sustainability is we absolutely, and this is somewhere which I really love, climate culture change, right? How do we change the conversations around culture change within this eco-anxiety place for people? If we do not sell tourism as fun, we are not going to sell tourism, right? And so that linear scale of don't do to this is going to be completely glorious is really important for tourism businesses to understand. And the behavior economics part of it, like design it in for them so they haven't got a choice, is very, very important. It's probably number one. The second one is sell with humor and love. Yeah. And that's where you get this delight and de-guilt part. It's the same scale. and signage, illustration, signage in the house itself, illustration in terms of your marketing, art in terms of your marketing, anything that's going to show values alignment. If you look at our New Forest Escapes website, you will notice really quirky illustrations. You will notice the odd bit of hand drawing. I wish there was more, actually. When I first started it, it was much, much more than it is now. The brand is more generic now than it was. And I think probably in the early days, one of the reasons that was so successful for us is because it was so overtly fun and so overtly for good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun first, fun and beautiful and interesting first. And then it was the for good part second. So those elements of doing the right thing, business for good, have to be combined in tourism with positive messaging. And when you're looking at responsible tourism, conscious tourism, sustainable tourism, like, I really don't say those things to your guests. You've got to do that behind the scenes. That's your strategy, but that's not your delivery point.
Yeah. Just, there would be some property managers listening right now and go, oh, look, this is all well and good, but how do I convince an owner that they have to do all these things to their properties? How have you managed to convince owners to make their property more sustainable?
Some haven't. A lot of our owners haven't. They're not on that journey yet.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them come to it because they want to save costs. They're aware that cost savings a big deal. It's a USP for a lot of them. Like, we want to get on the eco collection. We know it's a good thing. A lot of them have a personal story. They want to be able to say something. They want to say to their kids, "I tried." In fact, I think some of our most interesting owners actually let their kids get really involved in this stuff. Even if
nice.
They say, right, you've learned this at school. What are we going to do in the house now? Well, let's actually look at the costs, and they empower their children and make it a little family project. That's quite cool. A lot of them are really motivated by the guests behaving badly and leaving the lights on, etc., etc. Partly because it's cost, but partly because it's such a flagrant waste of resources, and that really irritates them. As it would irritate me massively. And that is it doesn't matter what your story is. It doesn't matter. There are other external forces that we won't be able to choose. And I would think, you asked me about the future, I would think in about 5 years' time, you will be fined if you're not doing the right thing, or the electricity price will have gone up so much you won't be able to afford to waste it.
Yeah. I did see you in a very short interview recently, and you were talking about insurance. You won't be able to insure your property.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. In fact, Christopher Warren, the reason that he wrote his book was that his neighbor's house burnt down, and they were, they had to rebuild from scratch. And they're in a bushfire area in Australia, and the likelihood is of them they will not be offered insurance. And if you're an insurance company, right, it's really, really obvious. If you're an insurance company, why would you insure a high-risk property where guests are going to be staying there, and the public liability claim, if there is a disaster, is going to be the maximum payout? And given that the climate is so uncertain, if you have got a guest house in Greece next to a pine forest, and there's not a good water source, okay, why would they get insurance? At the moment, the insurance industry is not having enough claims because our climate isn't quite enough to the point of actually causing that problem. But I think I would love to hear from an insurance perspective of someone on this podcast. Really love that, because I suspect my knowledge is out of date, and it's probably a lot worse than we think.
I'll have to investigate that.
Yeah, flooding in the UK, horrific.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
Yes. Well, we've seen all of it happening through the northern summer. It's been terrible all over the place. But this podcast episode could go on for forever. But I want to just touch on one last subject, and we can always have another episode to continue the conversation. But one thing I want to ask you about is eco-anxiety. What exactly is that? And is there anything that we can do besides, the sustainability, making our properties more sustainable? What exactly is eco-anxiety?
It's really interesting. The American, I can't remember exactly who they are, but the American Health Foundation, something like that, define it as a disease. So in America, eco-anxiety is actually a disease. In the UK, I'm not sure if it's recognized as a disease. I think it's recognized as a general anxiety disorder of sorts. Either way, it's something that is very serious because you have this awareness driver, this motivation driver to filter for the negative. And so all of our media stories around climate have been doom and gloom for, frankly, years. And that has created this sense of either denial, oh, we can't change, it's too stressful, I just can't even deal with this, or anger, which is why you get the Just Stop Oil and the Extinction Rebellion approach, or you get this motivation, which is I'm going to do something about it. And people who tend to get to the motivation stage have gone through this depression, anxiety, overwhelm, grief, anger, like 5, and they might go through all of those on one day, and then they have this version of active hope. So they've been able to reframe their frustration of those 5 elements into this active hope, which is this more purposeful connection with what they want. So the sense of purpose is really important to build. If you are suffering from eco-anxiety, you need to allow yourself to feel those feelings, because we all do at times. And then you need to really try and reframe your frustration into a laser point of, what can I do about this? What is my personal sphere of influence? Which is why I can buy a different holiday than that. I buy B, or my sphere of influence in terms of community and business. And that's where we as business leaders and community people can really make a difference. It's absolutely critical. And I see this. One thing I did want to talk about very briefly is this B Corp. I help companies, having done it myself and done everything wrong and taken so much time and so much energy and made every mistake in the book. We certified. That was not a problem. It just took way too long. I should have asked for more help. Didn't. And having done it wrong, I then did some fantastic training, quite a lot of training. And I still learning all the time. It's not something that's very easy. There's like 207 questions or something like that. Some of them are quite chewy. And one of the things that I have noticed as I'm doing this is the eco-anxiety of teams. Once they start focusing on a purpose and they know what their purpose is, the change in the business is profound and powerful. And suddenly, even if they're on the journey to certifying, the whole team start pulling together in a different way. And I'm consulting to companies. One company's got 180 staff over 3 countries. One company's got 20 staff, and they're all in the UK. But they are starting to go in this direction of purpose, and everyone is then contributing. And it's really interesting as a USP. You have owners who are actually phoning up the company, supporting and giving ideas and saying, can we test this in my house, etc., etc. You have organizations like Travel by B Corp, where suddenly you have this trusted set of almost advisors, because you all share the same purpose. You can then say, right, my business is struggling with this. I've got 20 people I can phone up and ask. And even if they're a direct competitor, I'm pretty sure they're going to absolutely help me. And I've seen this numerous times. It's a very, very powerful leadership position to align yourself with a global benchmark of being best for the world and best in the world. That's essentially what B Corp is. Yeah. Wow. It's absolutely, it changed my career completely, but it also helped me with my eco-anxiety, because I really truly feel like I am delivering my purpose. And that is, even on a crap day, makes me still feel like I'm absolutely, making a difference.
That's a fantastic way to wind up the episode, actually. You're making a difference. And if anyone has any questions for Rachel, please do pop them in the comments below. I'm sure we will be doing another episode to continue this conversation, because I think there's a lot more we could be talking about. But
I just want to say, I'd be really, really happy if anyone listening to this wants half an hour of my time to, ask some questions and get some help. We've got a load of resources on our New Forest Escapes website, so newforestscapes.com/sustainability. And the consulting company that I have, which is still, we're putting together a website now, is called the What If Department. So it's about making the changes for the future.
Tourism.
Yeah, really
fantastic.
cool. Thank
Well,
you.
we'll continue this conversation soon. Thank you
Wonderful.
very, very much, Rachel. I'll be putting all the links in the description below. And yes, again, if you have any questions, pop them down. Or I'll also leave Rachel's email address if you want to book in some time with her to have a chat. Thank you so much for your time, Rachel. I know you're busy. I've really appreciated and enjoyed this conversation.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Are you ready to start on your own green path journey? Why not take a look at the Green Step program? This has been tailor-made to take you step by step down the green path. You only see one step at a time, and that's all you focus on. Before you know it, you've gone down the path. To learn more, just head to thegreenpathpodcast.com.